Well, hey, howdy, hi! Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by to join me today. I really do appreciate it. My name is Ellie, and I'm a witch, and today we're going to be talking about A Holiday Homicide by Michelle Powers. Welcome all to Bookmas Day 1. This will just be a series where I'm going to give you guys a review for the 12 days leading up to Christmas. I have a lot of Christmas books with a few romance books thrown in there for good measure, so I'm excited. I also am going to be doing a book bingo. This is a book bingo card that I came up with myself. I did all of the spaces. No, I didn't cheat for this specifically. I should have though, because I really want one of the rewards that I'm going to give myself. But I will put on the screen because I have actually not decided which one of these squares I'm going to fill because there's a couple different ones it could fall under. Today we're going to be talking about Holiday Homicide by Michelle Powers. This genre is listed strictly as Christmas, which is fun. I haven't seen that specifically. But this is a novella at 121 pages on the Kindle edition, and it is through Kindle Unlimited for any of those interested. As usual, we will start with a synopsis. December is typically a joyful time of year. Unless there's a killer on the loose, Holly Frost and her family arrive at their lakeside cabin 3 days before Christmas. They were excited for all the holiday festivities. The lake was beautifully frozen and the snow draped over the trees. The view nearly took their breath away. It was a true winter wonderland. It was a picture-perfect holiday until their Christmas spirit was replaced by terror on Christmas Eve. Little did they know that they were now forced into a deadly game of cat and mouse. They had no idea who had come for them, and they didn't know why. There is a killer in the quiet town of Pinewood Hollow, and Holly's family is at the top of his naughty list. I, once again, have to reiterate that I go into my books with an open mind. I didn't go into this book assuming that I was going to hate it. That is not the mindset to have. I say that though, because this book is rated a 3.1 on Goodreads with less than 500 reviews, and it has a 2.8 on Storygraph with just 22 reviews. Regardless, we're going to go in this with an open mind. This will of course be a chapter by chapter breakdown with full spoilers. Chapter 1, we meet Tammy and Tyler. Having slept a long night of partying off, they are getting ready in a motel room. Tyler is apparently on the run, though for what we don't know. Tammy is not in legal troubles, it seems, but is rather just there for the ride. They are about an hour from their next destination, at which they will raise some holiday hell. Chapter 2, we meet Holly Frost, which is a fantastic name, as she packs for her family holiday. They are spending a little time in a cabin that they own, and she is kind of excited. Well, that is until someone tries to break into her apartment. She arms herself with a knife, but whoever it is stops and seemingly walks away. Like an idiot, Holly waits a beat and then opens the door. Whoever it is rushes her, and it turns out to just be her sister Bailey, who thinks it's hilarious. Holly and I don't agree. Anyways, they head out to the car, and Holly is sure that she sees someone in the bushes, but just brushes it off. Chapter 3, we now meet the rest of the family, Dad Christopher, Mom Eve, and teen brother Cole. The family is just finishing packing and getting everything loaded, and as they are pulling out, something pricks at Holly's awareness again, like a gut feeling that she is once more being watched. She turned her head slightly, scanning the houses. Nothing looked out of place, but the feeling lingered. She shook it off, probably just leftover adrenaline from Bailey's earlier prank. Still, she tucked her long red hair behind her ears, popped in her earbuds, and pulled up a true crime podcast. As the intro played, low and eerie with the narrator saying, "Tonight, we will discuss the family that vanished on Christmas Eve." Holly glanced into the side mirror. A beat-up red truck had just pulled away from the curb. It trailed behind them at a distance, subtle but steady. She frowned. "Don't be dramatic," she told herself. But something felt off. The truck was old, faded paint, dented bumper. It hadn't been parked there when they first left. Had it? Not wanting to tip off her family or seem like a lunatic, she angled her phone up and opened the camera. Using it like a rearview mirror, she zoomed in slightly and tried to see past the Yukon's back window. The glare from the sun made it hard, the windshield of the truck reflecting like a mirror. She snapped a photo anyway and lowered her phone. Zooming in on the image, she tried to make out the driver. No dice. The glare blocked any real detail. It was probably nothing. Probably someone heading in the same direction. Maybe a neighbor. Or maybe she needed to stop listening to podcasts where everyone ends up dead in the woods. Still, she didn't delete the photo, just in case. Chapter 4. They stop at a little gas station or a country store type setup. And so Christopher can go and get batteries, and so Holly can get a coffee. Shit, she gasped, coffee sloshing onto the floor. She stumbled back. Are you serious? Were you trying to breathe down my neck, or... The man in front of her stepped back with a sheepish expression. Mid-40s, gaunt, wiry build. His name tag read Silas, though it was crooked and faded as if it had survived the Civil War. Apologies, ma'am, he said, raising both his hands. Didn't mean to spook you. I work here. I was just about to ask if you needed help finding anything. Holly narrowed her eyes. His tone was polite, but something about him was off. Maybe it was just a too eager smile, or the fact that he was standing way too close in a half-empty store. Or maybe it was just her over-caffeinated nervous system reading too much into things again. No thanks, she said curtly, but maybe work on the whole personal space thing? Just a suggestion. Silas stepped back another few paces, nodding slowly. Yes, ma'am. Sorry about that. We keep getting told that she is big into true crime, and that makes her super smart and situationally aware, but it really just reads like she's pompous and paranoid. Grab both. Also, just so you know, the guy who works here, totally creepy. He was hovering behind me like he wanted to wear my skin. Her dad frowned. Creepy how? Like, standing close enough to become a backpack. Creepy as fuck. Language hog. Sorry. But seriously, he gives off serious I bury bodies in the woods energy. Christopher chuckled under his breath and tossed a few assorted packs into the basket. I'll be sure to keep my distance. Let's check out. At the register, Silas was already behind the counter waiting. His eyes darted between them like he was trying to decode a secret message in their expressions. He rang up the coffee and the batteries, fingers moving with twitchy precision. Sorry again, miss, he said as he slid the items across the counter. Didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. Holly offered him the most insincere half-smile she could muster. No worries, which of course was a lie. They stepped back into the cold, and Holly exhaled slowly, trying to shake off the weirdness. The general store stood behind her like something out of a Norman Rockwell painting, but the man inside it belonged in a darker frame. Back in the Yukon, the holiday cheer had reached obnoxious new heights. Eve was belting out Santa Claus is coming to town with zero shame. Cole was drumming the beat against the window, and Bailey was attempting to disappear behind the pages of her book. Holly sipped her bitter coffee and stared out the window as her dad pulled away from the curb. Snowflakes tapped softly against the glass like fingers. She didn't say anything, but she had a feeling they hadn't seen the last of Silas. Chapter 5, they get to the cabin, and it is just picturesque, but there are still things that need to be done. Everyone claims a room, and Christopher goes out to plow the snow, while Eve is getting groceries unpacked. Holly convinces Bailey to go down and help their mom, and this is when we learn that Bailey is adopted, though we're not told if the other siblings are adopted in this chapter. Chapter 6, Holly and Cole are not adopted. Just Bailey, and she's kind of always felt like an outsider since she doesn't look anything like the rest of the family. She was just told that her baby book and her pictures were lost, but she didn't feel right about it because why was it just her stuff and none of her siblings' items that were lost? Her parents finally sat her down and told her, but it was a closed adoption, so they didn't know anything about her parents. Well, Bailey can code, and so she broke into the adoption agency's files and found her parents' names, though we are not yet told what they are. Chapter 7. Bailey says that she knows being adopted isn't a big deal. She still loves her family. She just wants to know who she is and to be able to talk about it without it being a big thing. They move on, and Holly and her go watch a horror movie, after which the family bundles up to go outside and find the perfect Christmas tree. What they find first, though, are footprints. Bailey peered at the ground. Weird. Christopher squinted at the tracks and looked around. Probably a local hunter, he said casually. We'll say something if we see anyone. Could be someone didn't realize this land is private. Eve looked less convinced. Her brow creased as her eyes scanned the surrounding trees. Did you lock the cabin before we left? Christopher shook his head. No need. No one comes out this far, he nudged her playfully. That horror movie has you spooked. Holly wasn't so sure. Her stomach gave a little lurch as she noticed two distinct sets of footprints. One set came down towards the lake, and the other veered back into the trees. She stared at them for a beat too long. They hadn't passed anyone on the trail, and the tracks looked fresh. Had someone been watching them? She turned, scanning the thick forest with new eyes. The pines whispered above her, and for a split second, the snow didn't feel magical. It felt suffocating. Bailey, unfazed, kept walking ahead. Come on, it's freezing and I want cocoa after this. And just like that, the tension broke. Found it, Cole shouted, pointing to a tall, symmetrical pine just beyond the clearing. This is the one. As the family circled around the tree, admiring its shape, Holly couldn't shake the cold prickle at the back of her neck. She felt watched. Chapter 8. Everyone is setting up for Christmas, hanging garland, fluffing the tree, when Holly hears a thud outside. Everyone tells her that she's being paranoid, and when she looks, she doesn't find anything. They keep decorating, they finish the tree, have dinner, and then they put presents under the tree. Everyone then settles into their rooms for the night, very relaxing, until they hear a scream from outside, from Eve. Chapter 9, they all rush in, but Christopher tries to stop them. Billy says they can't just pretend they didn't hear their mother screaming bloody murder. So Eve explains that there was a dead squirrel on her bed with a note in the dirt next to it, "You're next." Which means that someone is in the house. Someone who might still be there. Christopher goes about to go and look, doesn't find anyone. Eve then tucks the kiddos in, and Christopher waits for the cops. As soon as their mother went downstairs, Holly collected her siblings and they set up in the 4th spare bedroom to watch for the police. When they show up a few minutes later, they did a sweep, collect the squirrel, and took pictures of the note. They didn't find anything more, and the town is small, but they said they'll do what they can and left. Chapter 10, Eve goes to wake up her children, who are not in their beds. She panics momentarily, and then she finds them all huddled up together in the spare room, and it makes her sad that they were this upset that they had to seek comfort in that way. She wakes them, but at the breakfast table, the parents are just trying to move past the squirrel thing. Cole and Christopher are going to go ice fishing, while the ladies are going to be doing some baking. Bailey and Holly just go get ready for the day, but they are not dropping the threatening message. Holly goes to the shower while Bailey looks if there's anything weird that's ever happened in the area before. When Holly steps out of the shower and goes to wipe the mirror, though, she sees 3 words and immediately runs to go find Bailey. Also, just a quick note, the book says 2 words, and I'll put it on the screen. I am not crazy. Chapter 11, those 2 words were actually 3. She is mine. It is petroleum jelly or Vaseline rubbed on the mirror, so it is deliberate. They debate telling their parents, but think that they'll just brush it off like the squirrel thing, so Holly goes to change while Bailey works on scrubbing it off. Before Holly makes it to her room, she hears her dad on the phone. She creeps to the top of the stairs to listen, then goes downstairs to actually talk to her dad about it. The cops are calling to tell them that the squirrel was killed. Its little neck was snapped, so this wasn't something that somebody just came across randomly and decided to play a prank with. Holly thinks it's sick, in a bad way, which it is. Then Eve comes in asking what's wrong now. Christopher recaps the call. Eve's face crumpled. Should we go back home? This is too much. Why would someone do something like this? It's Christmas, for heaven's sake, she whispered. Christopher let out a long sigh and stroked his salt and pepper goatee. No, we're staying. I still think it was just kids messing around. It'll blow over. Well, it's a shitty thing to do, Eve muttered and returned to the kitchen, shaking her head. Holly turned to her dad again. Where's Cole? Bathroom. We're going ice fishing after he's ready. Gotcha, she said, distracted. Eve peeked back in. Be careful, okay? Christopher gave a nod and kissed her cheek, but Holly wasn't focused on the family bonding anymore. She was already planning on how to tell Bailey about the dead squirrel and the police update without terrifying Cole or tipping off her parents, because someone had been in this house and they'd left more than just a message, they'd left a promise. Chapter 12. They get on with the day, making cookies, getting festive. Cole comes in with his successful catch of a rather large catfish, happy to harass his sisters with it first. They calm down, everyone gets back into the holiday spirit, sharing cookies, cocoa, watching movies. But then Holly's note ends on a less than positive note. By 10 o'clock, everyone had called it a night, but Holly couldn't sleep. She lay in bed, the heavy quilt pulled up to her chin, scrolling mindlessly through her phone. Most of her friends were posting festive selfies, family pictures, or ugly sweater party photos. It felt like another world. She was just about to close the app when she froze. Her thumb hovered over an article. The headline was in bold, ominous red. 2 federal inmates still at large. Search radius expanded to include Pinewood Hollow. Her stomach dropped. She clicked on it, and the article loaded slowly, the text crawling across her screen like a death sentence. The 2 inmates who escaped from a maximum security facility 6 weeks ago have continued to evade capture. The FBI has now expanded its search to include several rural areas across the state. Recent break-ins and sightings suggest they may be traveling together, possibly seeking shelter in seasonal cabins left unattended or sparsely occupied. Law enforcement urges caution and advises all residents to ensure their homes are securely locked. Holly stared at the screen, unmoving. Pinewood Hollow was the name. Their town. This town. The break-ins, the remote cabins, the authorities advising residents to stay alert. She tossed her phone onto the bed as if it had turned into a hot coal, chest tightening with panic. Her eyes scanned the shadows of her room, her mind spiraling. Yes, the doors were locked. Yes, the windows were closed. Those other houses, those families probably thought they were safe too. The break-ins had followed a path across the states. And now it ended here? She sat up, heart pounding in her ears. Someone had killed a squirrel and left it in her parents' bed. Someone had written on the mirror in advance, knowing they'd come back to find it. And now, the news said 2 dangerous fugitives could be in town, possibly close, possibly watching. Holly stood, grabbed her phone again, and tiptoed to the window. She pressed her palm against the cold glass and stared out into the darkness. The snow fell in thick sheets, and somewhere out there, the real horror was just getting started. Chapter 13, Christopher wakes to something outside. He grabs his bat until he starts walking outside, Eve right behind him. Eve slipped from the bedroom and padded into the foyer, her slippers barely making a sound. Chris? And then it happened. A wet, horrifying spray hit her face. She stumbled back with a scream as her husband's body crumpled forward, spilling out across the porch like a broken doll. Blood gushed from the gaping wound in his neck, a vivid contrast against the pristine white snow that lay beneath him. Eve manages to shut the door and lock it, the men pounding on the door, leaving one last parting remark: "She is mine." The siblings, having heard something, come downstairs and their mom screams at them to go back, and so they just huddle again in the spare room. Looking outside the window, they see a red pickup truck, the same one that Holly took a picture of because she had a weird feeling at the beginning. The snow is falling harder now, cloaking everything in a heavy, oppressive silence. But through it, she saw them. Two figures, both in masks, dragging her father's lifeless body through the snow, one holding each arm like they were hauling off a deer carcass after a hunt. She clamped her hand over her mouth, her entire body trembling as her eyes filled with tears. His throat had been slashed so deeply, his head tilted back unnaturally. His face was pale, mouth slightly open. He was dead. Her father was gone. She couldn't look away, couldn't scream, couldn't even breathe. The men reached the back of the red truck and lowered the tailgate with a hollow clunk before hoisting Christopher's body inside it like it weighed nothing. His arms flopped loosely over the sides as they slammed it shut. Bailey must have seen her sister's face contort. "What is it?" she whispered. "Let me see." "No, back up. I said, let me see." Bailey shoved Holly's hand aside and pushed up to the window just as the masked man climbed into the truck. She caught a glimpse of the truck bed, of something large and unmoving inside. She didn't need to ask. Chapter 14. In this chapter, they just go around securing the house. Furniture is moved against the doors, securing entry and exit points. Storm shelters are locked into place. They arm themselves with literally anything they can find. Thankfully, Christopher was a security net, supposedly, because, do you guys recall when they were going into the woods and they asked, "Is the door locked?" And he said, "No, it doesn't need to be." But this guy's a security nut, apparently. Chapter 15. The officer who took Eve's call heads to the cabin, though it's a rough trip due to the massive snowstorm that they're having. He ends up having to take his ATV for the last part of the journey, but he passes another cabin, the owner of which is out of town, and he knows that, but there's a red truck in the drive. He ignores that for now and goes to check the Frost family. They are okay for now. He takes the description of the people: ski masks, heavy jackets, one short, one tall, both likely being men. He realizes after taking the statement that the truck is the same one that he saw at the other cabin, so he goes to investigate, and wouldn't you know, it's the same truck. He pulled the tarp aside. There he was, Christopher Frost, pale, motionless, a ragged wound gaping across his throat. Luke flinched and closed his eyes for half a second. Goddamn monsters. The truck cab was empty, but he didn't relax. He turned back towards the ATV to grab his flashlight and was hit from behind. Hard. He stumbled forward, landing face first in the snow. A flash of pain shot through his head as something cracked against his temple. Blood trickled down the side of his face. He rolled over just in time to see the masked figure looming over him. The same bat that Christopher had taken from his closet now rose in the man's hands. Luke tried to reach for his weapon, but it was too late. Two brutal kicks slammed into his ribs, knocking the air from his lungs. The last thing he heard before everything went dark was the crunch of snow beneath boots and the low, rasping sound of someone breathing above him. Chapter 16. Holly is making dinner, just something to do while her mother comforts her siblings. When dinner is done, they all sit at the table, numb, not really eating, when they hear footsteps outside. Someone then starts pounding on the door, trying their damnedest to get inside. Eve tells her kids to go upstairs while she calls 911. A deep growling voice shouted, "Let me in, she's mine. You don't get to have her anymore, you bitch." Eve's heart stuttered in her chest. "What are you talking about? I don't know you. I don't know what you want." "You saw what happened to your husband," the voice snarled. "You're next." The pounding resumed, louder now, more urgent. The wood groaned under the strain. Eve's hand shook as she redialed the sheriff. Still voicemail. Come on, she muttered, then quickly tried 911. Click. A voice answered. "This is 911. What's your emergency?" Eve's words tumbled out. "Someone's outside. They killed my husband. The sheriff came earlier, but now he's gone. He never came back. Someone's trying to break in. He's pounding on the door right now. He said I'm next." The operator gasped. "Stay on the line. I'm dispatching help from the nearest city. It will take some time in the storm, but they're on their way. I'm sending the alert now. Oh my God, I can hear him pounding. Honey, are you alone?" Eve gripped the phone tighter. No, my children are upstairs. I sent them to hide. But I'm not leaving this door. If they come through, I'll fight. They're not taking my kids. Chapter 17. The siblings are huddled together in their room, but Bailey starts acting strange. Bailey's eyes narrowed. It's none of your business. Before Holly could respond, Bailey shoved herself off the bed and stalked towards the door. Where are you going? Cole whimpered and shrank further into the corner of the bed, wrapping his arms around his knees. Mind your own business. Damn, I'm going to the bathroom if you must know, Bailey shouted over her shoulder. Why are you being so weird? This isn't you, Holly said, following her to the door. Bailey spun around, arms crossed. You're always so bossy, like you think you're in charge of everyone. Maybe I just don't feel like playing your little survival game right now. Holly blinked, stunned. Bailey, I'm not trying to boss you. I'm trying to keep you safe. Don't you get that? Bailey hesitated. Her arms dropped slightly, and something flashed across her face. Something Holly couldn't place. Guilt? Regret? Or fear? I don't need your help, Bailey said, eyes avoiding hers. I'm not in any danger. Holly's heart thudded. What do you mean, you're not in danger? What are you talking about? I just meant, Bailey fumbled, then shook her head. Never mind, I'll be right back. She vanished into the hallway before Holly could stop her. Cole is scared because Bailey is acting strange, but Holly says that she's going to protect him no matter what. Bailey didn't go to the bathroom. She passed it without a glance and descended the stairs with slow, deliberate steps. Eve stood frozen near the fireplace, one hand still clutching the heavy candlestick. The pounding on the front door resumed, louder, harder. It rattled the frame. Eve spun around at the sound of footsteps behind her. Bailey, she cried, panic thick in her voice. Get back upstairs, now! Bailey stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Her face was blank, calm, chillingly calm. No, she said simply. Eve's stomach dropped. What do you mean, no? Bailey stepped forward, reaching for the door. Bailey, no! Don't you dare open that door! Click. The latch turned, the door creaked open, and the man from the porch stepped inside. Snow clung to his boots, a black ski mask obscuring his face, but his eyes were visible, and they were gleaming with something unhinged. Victory. Hunger. Bailey threw her arms around him like he was a long-lost friend. Merry Christmas, she whispered. Eve gasped, stepping back like she'd been slapped. Bailey, what are you doing? Another figure appeared behind the man. This one was shorter, slighter. Eve realized immediately it was a woman. She stepped into the doorway, pulling her own mask free. Eve stared at them, heart pounding. A man and a woman. The man pulled off his mask last, revealing dark hair, a scar running down the side of his jaw, and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. They linked hands with Bailey, forming a trio, a grotesque tableau. And then the man looked directly at Eve. I told you, he said smoothly. She's mine now. And shock horror. Anyone who didn't see this coming, please raise your hand. Chapter 18. Holly snuck out after Bailey just in time to witness her open the door for the attackers. She rushes back to Cole and secures him into the crawl space where no one would know to look before she goes downstairs. Obviously, the attackers are Tammy and Tyler, Bailey's birth parents. I'm sorry about your dad, Bailey said coolly. He was a good man, but he wasn't my father, and I never fit in here. Now I know why. Holly's breath hitched as she really looked, at the woman standing beside Bailey. The resemblance was undeniable. Same eyes, same freckles. The father's cruel smile curled into something even more sinister as he stepped forward. Please, Eve sobbed. Just go. Leave us. If Bailey wants to go with you, I won't stop her. I only hope she knows how much she was loved. Tammy put an arm around Bailey and sneered. She's coming whether you try to stop her or not. You and your husband stole her from us, and now it's time to pay for that. Her tone soured. We're not monsters. We won't hurt your other kids. But you? Tyler stepped closer to Eve, pulling a knife from inside his coat. His boots left watery prints across the floor. His smile turned razor-sharp. Hey, kid, he said to Holly, his voice silky and full of venom. Go upstairs. You don't want to see this. Holly didn't move. Her fist clenched, and she made a silent promise to herself right then and there. You're not taking my family, not without a fight. Chapter 19, Holly gets in between them and her mom, and she gets cut in the process. Her mom grabs her and holds her behind the couch, shielding her as much as is possible, but she doesn't need to in that moment because Tammy is shot. From the porch, Sheriff Adler stood with his rifle raised. Blood crusted on the side of his face, but he was upright, solid, alive, and furious. Holly and Eve looked up in stunned relief. The man spun around, roaring in rage. What did you do? He dropped to his knees beside Tammy, gripping her limp hand, but there was no time for grief. Sheriff Adler cocked the rifle again with a fresh wave of pain surging through his battered body. Hands behind your back, he ordered, voice steel. Tyler turned slowly. Then, like a snake, he struck, lunging across the room towards the sheriff, knife raised high. Another shot rang out. He collapsed mid-stride, crashing onto the wooden porch with a sickening thud. His knife clattered uselessly beside him. Bailey wailed as if her heart had cracked in two. Sheriff Adler stepped over the body, breath ragged, and handcuffed her swiftly. "You can't do this," she shrieked, fighting against him. "They came for me. I belong with them." "Stay put," he barked, dragging a chair into the center of the room and forcing her onto it. Even Holly flinched at his tone, but neither protested. The danger had passed, for now. Backup is only a few minutes out, so the scene is secured rather fast. Bailey is of course arrested, and Holly hands over all of the electronics since no one knew that Bailey was even in contact with her birth parents. The remaining Frosts huddle inside, just happy that they have each other right now. So that's the book. I didn't hate it, but it was also just mid. After I finished reading, I did check the reviews because it felt a tiny bit low for how mid the book is, and apparently I have an edited version. Somebody said that originally the truck was listed as a Chevy Yukon, when GMC is actually the maker of the Yukon, but in the version I read, it did list GMC rather than Chevy. Seems like the consensus overall is that it's just too predictable, which I agree with. We could have just cut out chapter 1, and it would have been way more suspenseful, but the author wanted to spoon-feed us the info, which we should all know by now is a pet peeve of mine. It was also awkwardly paced, I think. There were chapters of literally nothing, like, ooh, they decide to spend time together for like 3 chapters, and it added nothing. But then again, you also kind of need the filler, because otherwise you just get 50 pages of a story. The ending was also rushed, and I agree with people on that note as well. Overall, I didn't hate the book. I do think that it needs some editing though. Note the 2 versus 3 words thing. It is independently published, so I can understand not paying an editor or not having the money to, but these mistakes are too obvious for me to excuse it like that. Along with the fact that this is not a debut. From what I could find after a brief look at her Goodreads, is that this is her 20th or 21st book. She does have a book that came out in November, and I actually may review that since it's only 53 pages, so that might be like a backup, a switch-in book if I really don't feel like reading a full novel. But my point is, these books are just being pumped out rather than having real effort put into them. Not to say she's a terrible writer or anything like that. I think that she just needs to pay more attention, edit harder, and slow down. Also, can we talk about how Holly was like, yeah, we're for sure gonna see Silas again. Like, she's like, oh, that's kind of spooky. Maybe he's the one being... And then he just doesn't appear in the story. So again, she's this super smart true crime junkie, but is really just paranoid and kind of annoying about it, because like the only thing that she got right was the truck following them. That's it. All the rest of it was just her being like, ooh, I know true crime stuff. Who obsessed with true crime opens the door after somebody tries to break in? It wasn't just like somebody like knocked, just like waiting. No, they didn't knock at all. They just started moving the door handle. I'm not opening the door. That's not happening for a minimum 6 hours. That's that. I'm going to bed at that point. I don't care what time of the day it is. I'm going to bed. So yeah. I didn't hate the book though. It's not the worst read. I read so many mid books. I want something that excites me. That's not egregious. I don't mind mid books though. It's just I've read so many 3 stars this year. It's been kind of crazy. But that was Bookmas Day 1. I hope you guys liked it. Y'all tell me know if you've read this book or are planning to read it. It feels like it's not a very popular book. Not that many people have read it, which is, maybe some people are going to read it now. That's super cool. I say as I literally just rated it a 3-star. So Bookmas Day 2 is going to be Under One Roof by Lisa Underwood. That's also another 3-star review. I'm hoping that one of these 12 Days of Bookmas is 4 or 5 or even a 2. Give me a 2-star read. I want to see what that's like. But yeah, I don't really have anything else for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed Bookmas Day 1. You guys should give me some holiday book recommendations. Maybe I want to switch some of mine out. That's why I'm not revealing the rest of them too far ahead. But maybe I want to switch some out. But I will always take them for next year and in general, because I really just need to read more. I really need to read more books that aren't just strictly thrillers. This video is also not super long, thankfully, so I'm gonna let you go before I start rambling, but I think you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow for Bookmas Day 2. Bye!